Sunday, October 12, 2025, AGNDD intelliReport topic. Diane Keaton dies at 79. Please pardon any visual and informational inaccuracies in this entirely AI-generated article-based video. Diane Keaton, a star of Annie Hall and First Wives Club, dies at 79. He brought an unconventional personality to scores of roles on television and in movies ranging from zany comedies like Sleeper to piercing dramas like The Godfather. By Anita Gates, The New York Times. Published Oct. 11, 2025, updated Oct. 12, 2025, 6:04 a.m. ET. Diane Keaton, the vibrant, sometimes unconventional, always charmingly self-deprecating actress who won an Oscar for Woody Allen's comedy Annie Hall and appeared in some 100 movie and television roles, an almost equal balance of them in comedies like Sleeper and The First Wives Club and dramas like The Godfather and Marvin's Room, has died. She was 79. Her death was confirmed by Dory Rath, who produced a number of Miss Keaton's most recent films. She did not say where or when Miss Keaton died or cite a cause. Miss Keaton was 31 and a veteran of 8 films, most of them comedies, when she starred as the title character in Annie Hall, 1977, a single woman in New York City with ambitions, insecurities, and definite style. Annie is known for cheerful psychiatric breakthroughs, fashions that look like menswear, questionable driving skills, and lingering hints of an all-too-wholesome Midwestern upbringing. She accepted her Oscar wearing a linen jacket, 2 full linen skirts, a scarf over a white shirt and black string tie, and high heels with socks. In her 2014 memoir, Then Again, she looked back on the moment with some regret as My La-Da-Da layered getup. Annie Hall, which won 3 other Oscars, including Best Picture, brought Miss Keaton a shower of additional honors, including acting awards from the National Board of Review, National Society of Film Critics, New York Film Critics Circle, and the British Academy of Film and Television Artists. The Hollywood Reporter's review of the movie called Miss Keaton the consummate actress of our generation and observed that she adds the charm and warmth and spontaneity that make Annie Hall plausible. Miss Keaton received 3 other Oscar nominations. One was for the sweeping Oscar-winning drama Reds, 1981, in which she played Louise Bryant, an intense 1910s writer hanging out with Greenwich Village socialists and Bolshevik revolutionaries, notably the activist journalist Jack Reed, Warren Beatty, who also directed. Another was for Marvin's Room, 1996, in which she played the selfless daughter who is taking care of her slowly dying father and her scatterbrained aunt when she receives a diagnosis of leukemia and needs a bone marrow transplant. Her co-stars included Meryl Streep, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Hume Cronin. The third was for Something's Gotta Give, 2003, a comedy written and directed by Nancy Meyers about a successful playwright who turns an extremely tearful breakup into a new hit comedy. She attracts the attentions of a handsome, much younger doctor, Keanu Reeves, and inspires a sexist man in his 60s, Jack Nicholson, to fall in love with a woman his own age. Miss Keaton was also a director. Her first film was Heaven, 1987, a documentary on beliefs about the afterlife. In her last, she directed herself, Meg Ryan and Lisa Kudrow in the comic drama Hanging Up, 2000, based on a novel by Delia Ephron. Unstrung Heroes, 1995, her first foray into fictional filmmaking, starred Andie MacDowell, John Turturro, and Michael Richards. The story of a teenage boy's idiosyncratic uncles was selected for Uncertain Regard, the prestigious sidebar at the Cannes Film Festival. The Rolling Stone review said, "The movie works like a charm." The Washington Post called it sweet madness, a sensitive coming-of-age story. A film career was always Miss Keaton's goal. She explained her aversion to theater as a lifelong pursuit on CBS Sunday Morning in 2010. "Night after night, doing a play," she said, putting an imaginary gun to her head. "That's my idea of hell." Diane Hall was born on January 5, 1946 in Los Angeles. She was the eldest of 4 children of John Newton Ignatius Hall, known as Jack, a civil engineer, and Dorothy Diane Keaton Hall, an amateur photographer who was also crowned Mrs. Los Angeles in a beauty pageant for homemakers. Diane's father gave her the nickname Perkins and often addressed her as Diane, Miss Keaton wrote in her memoir. She grew up in Santa Ana, California, near Los Angeles, and briefly attended community colleges, first Santa Ana and then Orange Coast. At 19, she dropped out and moved to New York to study acting at the neighborhood playhouse. She made her Broadway debut in the hit musical Hair, first as a member of the ensemble, and then as Sheila, the female lead. She turned down the $50 bonus offered to actors who were willing to appear nude in one scene. Her Broadway career continued, and her partnership with Mr. Allen began with Play It Again, Sam, 1969, in which she played a romantically desirable married woman opposite Mr. Allen as a nebbishy divorced friend. That performance earned her a Tony Award nomination for Best Featured Actress in a Play. Her film debut came the next year, when she played an unhappy young wife at a suburban wedding in Lovers and Other Strangers, 1970. Then, after a handful of television appearances, she played Kay Adams, the clearly non-Sicilian girlfriend turned trusting wife of Michael Corleone, played by Al Pacino, in Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather, 1972. She and Mr. Pacino began dating in 1974, the year The Godfather Part 2 was released. For all the acclaim that The Godfather drew, Miss Keaton, ever self-effacing, hardly raved about her own performance in it. "Right from the beginning I thought I wasn't right for the part," she told The Times after the movie was released. "I haven't seen the film. I just decided I would save myself the pain. I had to see a few scenes because I had to dub in some dialogue, and I couldn't stand looking at myself. I thought I looked so terrible, just like a stick in those 40s clothes." 3 years later, the same year Annie Hall was released, she starred in the wrenching drama Looking for Mr. Goodbar as a young teacher who prowls singles bars almost every night. Molly Haskell's review in New York Magazine called Miss Keaton's the performance of a lifetime, and the movie itself harrowing, powerful, appalling. Some observed that although she won the Oscar for Annie Hall, many voters had been influenced by Mr. Goodbar, which they considered brilliant but too hard to take. She appeared regularly in Mr. Allen's films, starting with the movie version of Play It Again, Sam, 1972, Sleeper, 1973, a comedy set in a dystopian future, and Love and Death, 1975, set in Tsarist Russia. She also starred in two of Mr. Allen's more serious contemporary films, Interiors, 1978, and the multiple award-winning Manhattan, 1979. Although she dismissed her early singing ambitions as foolish, she sang 2 numbers in Annie Hall and made a cameo appearance as a 1940s nightclub singer in Mr. Allen's Radio Days, 1987. Their last film together was Manhattan Murder Mystery, 1993. In addition to Reds, Marvin's Room, and the sequels to The Godfather, 1974 and 1990, she starred in several other dramas, some with satirical undertones. They included Shoot the Moon, 1982, in which she co-starred with Albert Finney, the story of an unhappy California couple and their divorce. Beth Henley's Southern Gothic Crimes of the Heart, 1986, playing the spinster sister of Jessica Lange and Sissy Spacek. And the miniseries The Young Pope, 2016, as a nun who is personal secretary and confidant to the Pope, played by Jude Law. But her talent for sophisticated farce didn't go to waste. Before Something's Gotta Give, she appeared in other comedies directed or written by Miss Myers, Baby Boom, 1987, opposite Sam Shepard, as a big city executive who inherits a baby and moves to Vermont, and Father of the Bride, 1991, and its 1995 sequel, opposite Steve Martin. Speaking at a comedy festival in Aspen, Colabor in 2004, Miss Myers compared Miss Keaton's comedic skills to those of 2 big stars of an earlier generation, Katharine Hepburn and Jean Arthur. And Mr. Allen himself went even further. My opinion is that with the exception of Judy Holliday, she's the finest screen comedienne we've ever seen, he told the Times. Miss Keaton's other comedy films included Harry and Walter Go to New York, 1975, set in the 1890s with James Caan and Elliot Gould, The Family Stone, 2005, with an ensemble cast including Dermot Mulroney, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Craig T. Nelson, Five Flights Up, 2014, opposite Morgan Freeman, and Palms, 2019, about retirement-age cheerleaders. The First Wives Club, 1996, in which she starred with Goldie Hawn and Bette Midler, was a major box office hit, a comedy of revenge, or justice, depending on your point of view. Miss Keaton's character, for instance, learns that the therapist she has come to trust is actually having an affair with her estranged husband. Her final film was Summer Camp, 2024, a comedy about three old friends at an eventful reunion. Miss Keaton's personal life could be fodder at times for the gossip pages as they tracked her romantic relationships, including with Mr. Beatty and Mr. Allen, in addition to Mr. Pacino. She never married and adopted two children, a son, Duke Keaton, and a daughter, Dexter Keaton. Complete information on her survivors was not immediately available. "Getting older hasn't made me wiser," she told People magazine with a typically self-critical eye in 2019, insisting cheerfully, "I don't know anything, and I haven't learned." Over the years, though, she wrote a dozen or so books, volumes on fashion, art, and architecture, as well as memoirs. Writing in the New York Times Book Review in 2014, Sheila Weller called Miss Keaton's memoir, Then Again, provocatively honest, and Miss Keaton bitingly wry, ironic, and tough about herself. Then Again offered Miss Keaton an opportunity to observe, "I learned I couldn't shed light on love other than to feel its comings and goings and be grateful." It also gave her a chance to challenge an adage or two. "If beauty is in the eye of the beholder," she wrote, "does that mean mirrors are a waste of time?" Nicole Sperling contributed reporting. A version of this article appears in print on October 12, 2025, Section A, page 1 of the New York edition with the headline, "Diane Keaton, 79, quirky scene stealer with a dry wit dies." Comments? Moclips, Seattle. A terrific actress whose version of quirky was truly original, even groundbreaking, but she was also brilliant in Interiors, Woody Allen's somber, insightful drama about grown children in a complicated family. Her headshot was on the wall of famous grads of the neighborhood playhouse, then under the direction of Sanford Meisner. So sad she's gone. R.I.P. Diane Keaton. Your work will live forever. Henry Dickens, San Francisco, California, at Moclips, agreed. Interiors received bad reviews at the time because Allen made an unfunny film. Keaton holds her own as the eldest daughter, Renata, dealing with a difficult mother played by the unforgettable Geraldine Page. Keaton has some fine speeches in the film, particularly when she's arguing with her husband Frederick, Richard Jordan. Yes, it was a Berman knockoff, but what happens in the film is worth a screening. Come on, Virginia, I'm Gen Z. So many of her movies were before my time, but The Family Stone is my favorite movie, and I watch it every Christmas. It hits so hard for anyone missing a parent in Christmas, and her acting makes it so great. E. Oxman, New York. Met Diane on her trailer for the First Wives Club. My nanny was also hers, Tabby. Tabby told Diane about my kids, who were 4 and 3, so Diane asked me to bring the children with their violins to serenade her. We got to her trailer. Diane was still on set. She came up the stairs and my little boy said, "Get off, this is Tabby's trailer." I thought I would die. Diane loved it and asked his permission to enter her own trailer. I still have her autographed pictures to the children where she tells my son to visit her any time, but remember, she wrote, "It's my trailer." We loved her. Rachel Chance, Cleveland, Ohio, the most modern, smart, funny, and tasteful woman of our time. A personal inspiration for being true to oneself and living an unencumbered full life. R.I.P. fellow boomer. Jim F., Midwest. I'm 65 today, and I have loved watching Miss Keaton since Play It Again, Sam. For some reason, her death makes me more sad and more at loss than any other actor's death up till now. So-So, New Orleans, so many favorite movies. Sleeper and Manhattan Murder Mystery make me laugh over and over again. It's a sad day. Beth, Brooklyn. Diane Keaton gave girls like me in the 1970s and 1980s permission to be our own quirky selves, to dress like a man or like a rag doll or like a square or like an ingenue, or whatever we felt like, and who cares what people think, and to be silly and smart and honest and funny and confused and sophisticated, all while being classy and all at once. She was part of a rare cohort of women in Hollywood who weren't sexy or gorgeous, including Marilyn Glenn, but who were incredibly talented and really quite brilliant, whose roles were much more real in the last decades of the 20th century than anything we had ever seen on screen before, or I dare say since. Unwoke liberal Los Angeles. I had the pleasure of spending Thanksgiving Day with Diane Keaton at her mother's house as the guest of a family that were the Keatons' best friends from childhood. It was a gathering of just 7 women from 2 generations, all single at the time. We had a blast bemoaning the male sex, sparked by Bill Clinton's Monica Lewinsky scandal that was hot off the press. Keaton chimed in with some prime remarks about the character of a couple of her famous co-stars. She was very much like the characters she played in many of her films: funny, warm, self-deprecating, eccentric, complex. My friend urged me to bring some of my photographic art to show her, which she took great interest in. We talked about the importance of work being unique, inimitable as an essential ingredient of true art. I was thrilled she thought mine to have met that criteria, and that is exactly what I always felt about her work. She was one-of-a-kind film artist and human. There will never be anyone like her, on screen and off. Meryl G., NYC. I remember her first appearance on The Tonight Show. Johnny Carson introduced her and she sang a song. What made it different from the other actresses who started the same way was that halfway through the song, she began to cry, although she was able to finish the song. When she got over to Carson, he looked concerned and handed her some tissues. He asked whether she was emotionally involved with the song. "No," she replied, "I was just scared." The audience was enchanted from that moment on. God bless Diane Keaton, who left this world a little happier than when she entered it. Tony, Noblesville. No woman ever looked funnier, happier, or fitting than her wearing the many hats she did. Gino, 28, Arlie, first Robert Redford and now Diane Keaton. It's almost more than I can bear these days. How I miss them so. Vera, PNW, a brilliant, funny, amazing performer. One of the best, and she will be missed. I always thought that she'd be fun to get to know because she seemed genuine and down to earth. Mike, Los Angeles. Many might not know that she also restored classic architecture. In the 1990s, she worked to save the Mayan-style Samuel Navarro house in Los Angeles Hills, designed by Lloyd Wright, Frank's son, in 1928 for Ramon Navarro's secretary Louis Samuel. She loved good architecture. ELA, Massachusetts. I hope it's comforting to her family to know that Diane Keaton's brilliant work brought so much joy to so many people. Even in a movie like Looking for Mr. Goodbar, she projected both commitment and authenticity. In my engagement picture, published in the Times, I am wearing an Annie Hall dress with a vest. And I still have my Annie Hall hat, a slouchy beret in which I tried and failed to match her effortless style. She was that rare combination of looks, brains, and talent. Her youthful attitude makes it almost impossible to believe she's gone. Michelle VCI, SF Bay Area. Diane Keaton made it cool to be a quirky girl. True to herself. A life well lived. A role model for all those weird gals out there, including myself. My big sister is gone. I'm terribly sad. Nell Engoron. This hits hard. She's a huge part of our cultural history. I think her greatest performance is in Shoot the Moon. Her solo scene in the bathtub is the deepest form of acting. It feels utterly real and it cuts to the heart. She was also a comedic genius, a very rare combination of talents.
Thank you for watching this AGNDD intelliReport, dear viewers. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell button to get notified during new uploads. And make sure to tune in next time. Stay safe and healthy. Cheers.